Did you have the time to congratulate?
Yeah, we got to do the dinner and then I jumped on a plane. So, thank you.
We are really looking forward to learning more about your book, The Thank You Economy, and the philosophy behind it. So, not only the stage, the audience is all yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. How are you guys?
Awesome.
Awesome. So I guess you're going to be tweeting in your questions, so we'll get to that in a little bit. Just to put it into context, how many people here are aware of my story? Raise your hand. Okay, better than zero, not bad. It's not horrible for the ego. But enough that I'll give you the backstory, give you some context, and then we'll go into what the Thank You Economy is about. I was born in Belarus, in the former Soviet Union. I immigrated to the United States when I was 3 years old, and lived in a studio apartment with 8 family members, definitely smaller than this stage. So it was a very immigrant-based story. It was very tough. We were very poor. My dad had a lot of different side jobs, but one of the jobs he got in New Jersey, even though we lived in Queens, New York, was to be a stock boy at a liquor store. And that went well for him, and he eventually became the manager and eventually bought a small store in New Jersey. We moved to New Jersey. I was very entrepreneurial from the beginning. When we moved to Edison, New Jersey, I had a lemonade stand franchise, which means I had 9 lemonade stands in the town, and I made all my friends work. And that was a great business. I used to ride my little bike around and collect my money like I was in the mafia. It was tremendous. And that was very good, and life was good. And then I became a little older, and when I was 12 years old, I started a very serious baseball card, hockey, basketball, sports trading card business. And that was a really big business for me. I was making $2,000 to $3,000 a weekend selling these sports cards in the malls of New Jersey. And when you're 13 and you've got $20,000 in cash under your bed and you're not selling drugs, you're doing a good job. So that was exciting, and life was good, and I was making a lot of money, and I was super happy. And then I turned 15, and my dad ruined my life. One day I was getting ready for one of the biggest card shows. I was very excited. I woke up in the morning, I was getting my cards ready. My dad walked in and said, "You're coming to work." And I said, "No, Dad, I have a baseball card show." I don't know how many of you have Soviet Russian fathers, but when he says you're coming to work, you're going to work. So that didn't work out. I actually started crying very heavily because I paid $1,000 for the table at the card show, and I was going to lose that because I wasn't going to get it back, and I was crying, really crying, like a lot. And we were driving to work. I finally composed myself. It was a 40-minute drive. About 30 minutes of crying in, I finally stopped, and I looked at my dad, and I said, "All right, Dad, how much are you going to pay me?" And he looked at me, and he said, $2 an hour. And then I really started crying. And that was terrible. And that kind of started my wine liquor business career. I got paid $2 an hour for the next 2 years on every weekend, every holiday, every summer vacation. I worked every gosh darn day I could. $2 an hour to bag ice in the basement of my dad's liquor store every single day for 10 hours a day. So needless to say, it was terrible. I hated it. Finally, when I was 16, I was able to come upstairs, and I was allowed to dust the shelves and hang around. On a specific day, my whole life changed, and why I'm standing here in front of you today happened on this day. Every person came in this day and asked for the same wine on a Saturday. They all asked for the same exact wine, which was the Caymus 1991 Caymus Special Select Cabernet Sauvignon, which is a California Cabernet that's very sought after. It was named the Wine of the Year by the Wine Spectator, which is America's top wine journal. And after about 30 people came in and asking for it, they'd come in and then they'd leave because we were sold out. Any good entrepreneur like I am said, "This is bullshit." I said, "I got to take a back order." Even though we didn't have a back order system in the store, but I wasn't scared because I was going to school on Monday and I wasn't going to deal with it. So the next person that was going to come in, I was going to take a back order. Guy comes in, "Do you have the Caymus?" "No, sir." "What's your name?" "I'll take a back order." He goes, "Great." I took his name, his address, his phone number, and I said, how many bottles would you like?" He goes, "I'll take 6 cases. And I said, oh shit, this guy's an alcoholic. I said, are you having a party? He said, no, 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 no. I collect wine. And that was it. Right there in the Chardonnay. I can, you know when you remember something, you can still feel it? I can feel standing in the Chardonnay section in my dad's liquor store saying, oh my God, people collect wine the way I collect sports memorabilia. I can do this. I'll just take that passion and learn everything about wine. And for the next 2 years, what I did, learning wine should be illegal. No child should learn as much about wine as I did at 16, 17 years old. All in, loved it. Read everything, did terrible in school because I'd literally sit in class reading the Wine Spectator and Decanter magazine while we were teaching science, and I'd be like, my teacher would yell at me and I'm like, I don't give a shit about Saturn, I want to learn about the Loire Valley. And so that would, that's basically what I did, and I got very passionate about that, and I got involved in my dad's business. This is where it's going to start getting interesting and important to you guys. I grew up in a traditional bricks and mortar business. I wanted to change the name of my dad's liquor store. The name of the store was Shoppers Discount Liquors. I wanted to be a wine business because that was the passion. So I wanted to be Wine Library. But my dad didn't want to change the name because he started Shoppers Discount Liquors. There was a lot of them, and he was scared to be the only wine library. So I registered winelibrary.com in 1997 and launched it. Here's what's important. First of all, I did not grow up techie. I did not grow up techie at all. I did not have a computer at this point in my entire life. As a matter of fact, what I talk to you about today, Facebook, Twitter, social, none of this stuff is emotional to me from a tech standpoint. I'm not obsessed with the technology. I'm obsessed with the people in this room. It's about the users, which is what I care about. I launched winelibrary.com with very little knowledge, so much so that I got ripped off for our website. Somebody built it for us for $45,000. Looking back at it, it probably took them 2 hours of HTML work. And we launched and we did like $4 in sales in the first year. 4. So my dad wasn't super happy with our decision to launch winelibrary.com. But obviously, in 1998, I took over day-to-day operations and I was able to grow the business. And so from 1998 to 2005, I grew the family business from a $3 to a $45 million a year business, which is very good growth, and it was completely on the back of e-commerce. So Thank You Economy is definitely looking at social media very heavily. And I'm very passionate about social media, and I speak to it now, and I have a consulting company. My brother AJ and I have a company called Vaynerchuk, and we consult the NHL, Campbell's Soup, the National Hockey League, I did that twice, sorry, PepsiCo, Green Mountain Coffee, and other very large billion-dollar Fortune 500 brands. But I come from a very e-commerce place, and doing a session this morning has really helped me to understand, and there's a lot of things I want to get across in today's talk that is very relevant to this audience, and I'm excited to be at an e-commerce conference. Let me start with this. I'm about to talk for the next hour or so. We're going to do some Q&A, and you're going to ask some questions. I speak quite a bit around the world, not just in the US. The number one thing that I hope you get from my talk today, number one, hands down, nothing else, is that I don't want any person here. As a matter of fact, let's all make a rule together. Let's be friends. Hold your neighbor's hands. I want to make a rule. The next time you're ever anywhere and somebody says, yeah, but they can do that in America. This is Sweden. We don't do that. We're not like that. I want you to punch them in the mouth. The number one thing, thank you, and I mean it, the number one thing, and I go to a lot of places, and it's always the same thing, Canada. Well, you're Americans, you're extroverted, you're obnoxious, you're loud, you're fast, you're this. We don't act like that. We're more reserved here, Canada. Norway a couple weeks ago. Well, Gary, you guys are loud and obnoxious and pushing, but we're very reserved here. Yeah. Sweden, well, we need to drink first and then we'll talk to you. So maybe we should serve some wine. No matter where I go, the common play is the same old thing. Yeah, that works in the US, it won't work here, we're more introverted, we're worried about the other country, we're more conservative. And listen, I have no interest, and I don't have the audacity, I don't, to come up here and tell you the way it's gonna be for you, because the number one thing I believe in more than anything is culture. And we all have different cultures. I grew up in a Soviet household. When we start talking about privacy, don't think I stand on this issue like an American. My dad, if I say his name right now, he might just come from down here and shoot me. I mean, he is one private motherfucker, right? So understand privacy and all that stuff. And I understand culture. I grew up in a very different household than what happened to me when I went outside. And I respect their culture and the differences, and I believe in them. However, at the end of the day, we are all people, and there's certain things we do, and there are certain culture things that we live by, and there's certain common threads, which is first and foremost, we have an inherent need to communicate to each other. I am completely convinced that every person in this room, and this is creme de la creme, I know the companies that are here, I took a look at the list, I've done some little homework, these people in this room are doing some serious internet business in our society. And I'll tell you right now, if this was in Palo Alto, San Francisco, and it was the top 1,000 tech people, I would say the following statement. And it is an important statement. I firmly believe in my heart, in every ounce of my soul, that every single person in this room right now is grossly underestimating the internet. I don't give a shit how bold and all in you are, you're still underestimating it, for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's early. It's so early. How many people in this room, I'm dying to see how many hands go up. And listen, I flew a long way to be here, so none of this. Remember last night? Don't give me this. I want full hand. Don't head shake. I don't want your head. I want your hand. How many people here do not remember the world pre-internet? Don't remember a world without the internet. Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. How old are you?
29.
29? You don't remember 12? You're right about the drinking. Do you not remember the world? You don't, when did we first?
Of course I remember the world. I don't remember a world without computers.
Fair enough.
And growing up, getting adolescence, the internet was there.
Always there
and
for
I
you.
went from childhood to internet.
Got it. Yeah, and so if you think about the room, I appreciate it, thank you. And you look, there's 4 or 5 people that raised their hands. This stuff is so new. 2007, I said, the internet hasn't had sex yet, and it's dominating. And a lot of people enjoyed that statement. But my point was that this platform is the single biggest culture shift in hundreds of years to our society. This is the biggest culture shift that our society in the world has seen or dealt with in a very long time. This stuff, this social, and so what's happening is, and understand another thing, I hate the word social media. I hate it for a couple of reasons. One, the word media, and we'll get into that in a minute, because it screws the whole thing up and it confuses everybody in a very big way. Number 2, it's called social media now. I'm sure a lot of you remember 5 minutes ago it was called Web 2.0. In about 6 minutes we're going to call it something mobile, because that's where it's all going to happen, right? So it's going to be, you like that? So it's going to continue to change its name, but what it is the maturity of the internet itself. It's just maturing. This platform is maturing and it's evolving. We're understanding how to put tools on top of it. All Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr and YouTube and on and on and on, all they are, blog.se, all these things are, you like that? Gotta get a little local up. All these tools are tools. I have no emotion about telling you you have to be on Facebook or Twitter. I really don't. I don't give a shit. I really don't. What I do care about is that we have to communicate with each other, that the marketplace is changing. There's a lot of people here who are trying to reach the consumer. Marketing and selling stuff on the web or in a local store, whether you shut it down or not, it was always the same old thing. We all had to give a presentation. You had to talk. You had to tell your story. It was storytelling. You told a good story, people were compelled, they'd go, and they would buy it or they wouldn't. You would convert based on the scale of your story. If you had a good story, and your content or product was good, you would convert. It was all talking. The skill set it took to sell stuff for the last 150 years is the skill set that I'm showing on this stage right now. You give a presentation, and then there's consumers, and you convert. Some of you are sitting right now saying, he's pretty good. Some of you are saying, he's a little annoying. Some of you are saying, he's better looking in person. You might be thinking a lot of different things. But the skill set needed was what I'm doing right now. Push the message, convert a percentage, that is your business. I am in the firm belief that we are living through the beginning of a substantial shift in marketing and the way we all do business, which is that this room becomes a cocktail party. That the skill set it takes to sell stuff in 10 years is not what I'm doing right now. But it's if we took all these chairs away and we were all hanging out and we all started to engage, who could work the room the best? Who could walk around and work that room the best and create the most context? How many people here have heard the term content is king? Know this, this. Raise. Thank you, very nice. Almost everybody. I believe content is king. I'm very high on content. I met a wonderful gentleman, I think he's wearing a yellow sweater, I don't know if he's here. There you are, sir. Showed me a very nice site, fashion, blog post, shows pictures, content, buy it, love it, you should check him out. Very similar to what I did with Wine Library TV. I promise you that my Wine Library TV thing, if you know that background part of me, would not have been successful. Great, I knew how to market, I knew how to use social media, but if I didn't grow up with wine for 15 years and knew what I was talking about, it wouldn't have worked. Because guys like Diedrich, when they would have watched, would have thought, well, he doesn't know what he's talking about, he's wrong, that's not right, and this is weird. So, content is king. In 2008, at Web 2.0, I said something, I said, content is king, but marketing is the queen, and she runs the household. All right? And I believe that. I think a lot of people here, we're in e-commerce, believe that marketing matters, right? You gotta get people in, marketing very much matters. I'm all in, that used to be my favorite statement. Marketing was the queen, I'm in. However, in the last 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, especially as I've gone more all in on social, why I believe I have close to 1 million followers on Twitter, is context. Context matters to me more than absolutely anything in the business world today. And let me start, before I get into this next spiel, for everybody to understand who they're talking to up here, who I am, who you're about to ask questions for. I am not Mother Teresa. What I'm about to talk about, which is going to sound very lovey-dovey and kissy-huggy and love, just remember that my first business, I was embarrassed to tell you what it was. It wasn't lemonade stands. My first real business was I would go into people's yards, rip their flowers out of the ground, their flowers, ring their doorbell, and sell it back to them. Okay? So, I'm not here because I want to all kumbaya and this is all friends, and this is not Zen. I want to sell stuff badly. And always have, and always will. The reason I have all these warm and fuzzy feelings and the things I'm about to talk to you about is because for the last 6 years, I've been converting at it. And I understand what it is. And more importantly, and this is the part that's scary for the people in this room, I believe almost every platform of push marketing is on the verge of being in trouble. And more importantly, if you start paying attention to your own businesses, you can start seeing a lot of things you've been doing over the last 5 years are not converting as well. How many people here are doing email marketing? Raise your hands. Emailing offers. How many people have been doing it for 5 years? Raise your hand. Okay, of this smaller group, I think you guys all know, unless you're living in a different universe or something very special is happening in your environment, email open rates aren't where they were 5 years ago. They're just not. You know why? Because 10 years ago, when you got your first email, it was like Christmas. You were very happy. Remember? Ooh, you got mail. Ooh, you read every word. You loved email. Every person in this room, at some point, loved email. The first time you got email 10 years ago, that stuff was awesome. How do you guys like email now? Anything. And by the way, and let me make it on that point. This book, you should not buy it unless you plan on executing it in the next 36 months. Everything I write about in this book and everything I believe right now in marketing is going to be ruined in 3 to 4 years. Ruined. Because marketers ruin everything. It's what we do. Because what I talk about this book will start becoming a tactic instead of coming from here, and then it won't convert. I believe we're on the verge of the thank you economy. I believe if you start looking at email open rates, I don't know how many of you are really techie and nerdy and remember the good old days of banner ads when people asked you to click them at a 15 or 20% click-through ratio, and now if you get 0.07, you're a genius. So those are crap. Email's crap. How many of you have, what is it, a PVR? The DVR? How many of you have a PVR? Raise your hand. Am I getting it wrong? The recording thing. Help me.
Inspelningsbar.
You know, like the DV, you know, like recording your TV shows and then watching it later. Raise your hand. There we go. What's the name of it? I was right? PVR? All right, one more time. Not a lot here? How many people have what we call in the US TiVo or a DVR, where you record your TV shows and then you watch them later? Raise your hand. Okay, so not as much of penetration, maybe 30–40% of the crowd. Just curious, and if you don't have one in front row, look back at this, because I think you're going to find this interesting. How many of those people, which is about 30% of you, fast forward every single commercial of every show that you record? Raise your hand. All right, everybody look around, and now just curiously, of the ones who have a PVR, how many of you let the commercial play while you're watching the tape? Just curious? 2. Can you 2 come on stage so I can shake your hand? Come on up if you want, please, sir. Come on. 2 people just want to shake their hand because, you know, we're all marketers and it's very nice. I want to respect people who actually, well, let's clap it up for these guys. That's amazing. You're a good guy. You'll watch 1 or 2. 20% of the commercials. I'm very lazy too. You're that lazy that you don't even want to fast forward. I love this guy! Do you watch all the commercials?
No, not all of it.
But
parts of it.
Why?
Because I like commercials.
Yeah, me too, actually.
They are inspiring.
Are you a marketing kind of guy? Are you interested in that standpoint?
I'm in sales.
Yeah, very cool, man. Nice to meet you. How many percentage of the commercials do you watch? All of them?
Maybe half of it. Or...
Half of it. Okay, cool. So, of the 200 people that have a PVR, DVR, TiVo, whatever the heck you want to call it, 2 watch the commercials. So why are my clients, Pepsi and Campbell's, paying the same price as they were in 2003? Yeah, you're absolutely right. And Ad Age writing about it for 6 months. So, there are major culture shifts. For example, when you drive home tonight, I want you to do me a favor. Text yourself so you don't forget. I want you, while you're driving, to look outside and look at a couple of the drivers. I have a bet to make. I will bet you that 1 in every 3 people that you drive by are not looking at the road. They're looking at their cell phone. Maybe 1 in every 2. I'm like scared to drive now. So, why in the heck am I paying the same price for billboards as I was 7 years ago? People aren't looking at billboards in 2011. They're not even looking at the fucking road. We have substantial culture shifts. And the way we reach the audience. Who's doing direct mail here? Raise your hand. 5, 7 people. Of those 7 people, how many of you are really happy with your direct mail program? Raise your hand. 1. We need to talk later. So direct mail, we've been testing some stuff at Wine Library. We're finished. We can't even wrap our head around how to justify it. We just can't. So direct mail is struggling. Outdoor media not converting at the same pace because culture shifts. I mean, have you walked across the street in a busy city? You're running into each other. Nobody's looking up. Nobody's looking at a bus stop ad. TV, with what we just saw. Click-throughs, email. So how are we supposed to reach the consumer? The platforms are bleeding. They're bleeding equity every single day. It is my belief, and what I've seen, through what I've done in the wine space, and what I've now done with my other clients in all sorts of genres of business, that the opportunity is now not to talk so much. That the reason, how many of you, don't lie, I could care less, how many of you think Twitter is stupid? Raise your hand. Raise it. Be honest. Be honest, it's okay. That the reason I think most people think Twitter is stupid, or at least thought it was stupid the first time they saw it, is because we always think about talking. You saw Twitter and you said, what am I going to say? Who cares that I'm walking the dog? Nobody cares that I'm watching the hockey game, or that I'm eating pizza, or that it's my aunt's birthday. This is stupid. Why would anybody care? And that I believe that the single most important website on the internet today, right now, at this moment, and I'm very aware of the 100,000 users in this marketplace, but I am completely convinced that search.twitter.com is one of the most important and substantial websites on the web. That when I can go to search.twitter.com right now, I can search the word Chardonnay, Merlot, Pinot Grigio, or anything else in my business. Today, because I have brand equity, I can search my name. You guys, a lot of you are the biggest companies here, you can search your names. That the amount of context being produced around our businesses every day is substantial. That listening to that end user is going to matter. That I believe all of you in this room said you care about your customers, and you really don't. Or at least you're not executing that you do. That we are living through a substantial culture shift, and that we always say that we're not going to do something when we do. How many people here said, probably 3 years ago, that they're never going to go on Twitter, Facebook. I'm not going to have a Facebook account. I don't need it. There's no reason for me to be on Facebook. Don't lie, raise your hands. Who said they're not going to be on Facebook? Don't lie, I'm waiting. Thank you very much, I saw you came in late. Just curious, of the 100 of you, how many of you are on Facebook? Raise your hand. Well, I meant the people that aren't. That said they wouldn't be. Not all of you, but fair enough. I am obsessed with the culture of we're not going to do this, or this is not going to happen. I'm obsessed with the 7 board members in 2001 that sat around the room who created $20 billion in revenue in their careers, said, hey Magnus, what do you think about Netflix? Oh, I think it's stupid. Anders, what do you think? Oh no, nobody uses it. John, no. Paul, no, 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 no. And that those 7 board members who've been so successful in business up to that point put Blockbuster out of business in America in 7 years. Because they emotionally decided that people wanted to come to the store and rent DVDs. Innovation and technology doesn't care about any of us. None of us. It's a heartless warrior. And there are tons of people in this room that are downplaying social's ROI. I hear that all the time. What's the ROI of social media? Downplaying it and are going to wake up in 10 years and be out of business or substantially hurt by their major competitors. Let me tell you what the thank you economy is about. Customer service was mentioned earlier. Do you know what I think customer service is? I think it's defense. I think customer service is playing defense. Somebody's got a problem, you ship the radio to the wrong place, I broke a bottle of wine, they're pissed, you are reacting, you're playing defense. The thank you economy for me is to go on offense. I've created a thank you department at winelibrary.com. What does this mean? This means that Kristen recently sent me an email about a customer, because I want some case studies for talks like this, about a customer who bought a lot of wine from Chicago. First-time customer. I told Kristen to Google his name and find him on a social web. We found his Twitter account. For the next 2 weeks, we followed everything he said. Here's what he said. Jay Cutler, I love you. Jay Cutler, you're my favorite player. Jay Cutler, you're the best. Jay Cutler, you're underrated. Jay Cutler, you're going to the Pro Bowl. Now, this works much better in America when people know who Jay Cutler is. I know you don't know who he is, for the most part, some of you may. Jay Cutler is the quarterback, the most important position in an American football team, of the Chicago Bears. Okay? He loves them. There was even one tweet, I think, that said, Jay Cutler, will you marry me? I mean, he likes them. I told Kristen to go to eBay and buy a Jay Cutler jersey, signed. Send it to him with a thank you note that says, thank you for becoming a Wine Library customer. Now, let's think about this. Why was this possible? What does it mean? And what's the impact? 10 years ago, I would have never known that he was a Jay Cutler fan. Right now, every person here, even the small group of 100,000 Twitter people, all the Facebook users in Sweden, Blog SE, and whatever else, this country and these platforms that are used to communicate, because by the way, whether it's Blog SE, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, Ustream, Seismic, on and on and on, I don't care what it is, it's going to be something for the rest of our lives. We will be communicating to each other on the web, through mobile devices and other platforms, forever. And the amount of people that will be doing that will only grow until it is full penetration. Until it's 0.001 that doesn't do it, and they live in the mountains that are very weird and they smoke weed and the whole nine. All right? So, what does this mean? It means that every single day, right now, that a boatload of your customers are creating context to their friends and family. That whatever they're saying, they're creating context. It also means that you can see it. that you can search it and that you can engage it, because consumers are now willing, and yes, there's different DNAs of the US and Sweden and China, I get it, but in the masses are willing to allow you to engage with what they're saying. So when somebody says something, like they had a great service from your radio company, sound system, that is my belief, Jimmy, 100%, that you should not allow one person to say that they're happy with your service and not engage them and thank them. That I think that is totally unacceptable in 2012 for any one of your customers to say anything positive or negative about your business and for you not to engage it. The amount of chatter that is going on around your brands, your company, and or at the very least, if you're not all the way there yet, your industry, because there's a lot more people talking about sound systems than specifically your business. There's a lot more people talking about wine than my specific business. That your ability to engage with that is incredible. And that context, that when you actually engage with somebody, when you actually care with them, it changes the game. That when we sent that jersey to that gentleman, we did not send him 2 bottles of wine. We did not send him a subscription to the Wine Spectator or a decanter or some wine racks. Because you know why? That context is what's good for us, right? You didn't send, you sending somebody something that they care about, like, I don't know, I know hockey's big here, maybe a hockey jersey, instead of a sound system, sure, they'll upgrade, they'll need parts. No. We sent something to that customer that was his emotional center, his context, what he cared about, not what we cared about. And that was the story, and I was telling this story for about 2 months now on tour, until 14 days ago, when he emailed us. He's a busy guy, hedge fund guy, emailed Kristen, said, Kristen, thank you so much for the jersey. I just received it. I'm very busy. I just wanted you to know. He said, I just want to tell you a story. I've been shopping with Sam's in Chicago, very big wine shop, for the last 15 years or so. And I've spent close to $500,000 on my wine collection over the last 15 years. I want you to know that I'm never shopping with them again, and you've got my business. Now, great, awesome. Because, and he went on, that's actually not the interesting part. The interesting part is what he said, like how he felt, and like they never did anything for him, and this is his first order, and I feel a connection, this and that. And that's what matters. Now, that's fantastic. But I'm not standing in front of you today and saying, buy your customer stuff and they'll be good. That's just a piece of it. Do I believe that every person in this room 10 years from now is going to say something like going on a ski trip and that when you come back, you'll have tons of free stuff for skiing? I do. That it's my belief that if you said going to play basketball, it is cheaper for Nike to send you a pair of sneakers in the mail than it is for them to continue to market the way they're marketing to get to you. Paying high prices for middle platforms to try to convert and have you become a customer. That if you look at the math of it all, that there is a marketplace for this. Now, when I tell people this, they think I'm crazy. On the flip side, what you guys may not know is that the biggest day in history for WineLibrary.com is in 1998, 1999 actually, when we were a $3 million company. We are a $60+ million company now, and we cannot top this day. Why was this day special? It was the first time I ever did free shipping. People bought wine that day like they thought the cure was inside of the bottle. One guy ordered 20 cases and in the comments section said, thank you Wine Library for doing this. I took advantage. I bought this wine for my daughter's wedding. Me, living in the thank you economy back then, not realizing it, picked up the phone and called him to wish him a congratulations because I was kind of packing orders for 20 hours a day. I needed a break. So I called him. I said, John, congratulations. I just want to tell you, like, when is your daughter's wedding? He said, oh, no, Gary. My daughter is 12. I said, what? He said, my daughter's 12 years old. She's not getting married. He goes, no, this is such a sick deal. I'm buying the wine now and I'm putting it in the basement. Now, so that's why it was the biggest day in wine library history. People lost their mind because they never heard of free shipping before. Now, everybody in America is so spoiled because of Amazon Prime and everything else, they don't buy anything on the internet unless it's free shipping. We get very used to things very quickly. That's how we act. And I do believe that's coming. But here's something else I want to paint the picture. I want to paint a more actionable picture to you guys, one that matters now that I think you need to seriously consider, which is that we implemented something recently where every single person that unsubscribes from the Wine Library email service, we call with a human being. And we apologize, or, sorry we sent 40 emails in one day, or whatever we're doing. That we absolutely ask everybody with human equity why they unsubscribed and what can we do. I think this might matter to you guys. Check this out. We have reconverted 40% of the people that tried to unsubscribe from our email newsletter. 40. You guys want to hear something better? Of that percentage, their average spend of that group is up 70%. Why? Because we created context. Because we showed them that we're not faceless and that we care. And so these are the things that matter. I believe that the reason, do you know what I always called this book? Do you know why this book was called The Thank You Economy? It was because my last book, Crush It, sold so many copies. What they did not know, and what I believe so much, and I believe is not being done at all in the marketplace, is I paid forward. I did 1,000 episodes of Wine Library TV for free. I answered hundreds of thousands of emails. Do you know how many times I've asked and answered, excuse me, not answered. Do you know how many times I've been asked and I've answered what wine goes with fish? Fuck. Like 200,000. I need somebody like write me a program where I can just hit F5 and just answer that shit. I mean, so many, but I did it. And I responded to tens of thousands of tweets, tons of the Facebook.com/Gary comments, everything I could. Giving, answering, service, not trying to sell, not push, service above being a merchant, giving, so that when I finally came out with something that cost $20, I almost called the Thank You Economy guilt marketing. I guilted my fans and users to buy my book. I gave so much that they literally couldn't look themselves in the mirror and not buy the book. It's like, shit, the guy's answered 400 of my emails. I really believe in this. See, what you guys may not know, and what I think most businesses don't understand, and the way I live my life is this. I am not here today because I hope that you guys buy the Thank You Economy. I'm not here today that I hope I give a good speech and I go outside and then you guys all buy the book and I sign it. I have actually no interest in your short-term business. The reason I'm here today is I wanted to come to the biggest event in this country and create as much context with as many people as I possibly could. That next time I come, not 3 people, thanks by the way, stand up and cheer, but 40. And 30 years from now, 4,000. That I firmly believe the way to build business is to run a marathon, not a sprint. And that I've watched so many people go out of business running sprints. That I believe all these deal-a-day sites, so many of them will go out of business because there's no real brand connection. That it's just a faceless service and they're buying $20 worth of sushi for $10. But the company that understands how to build lifetime value wins. Here's something I want you to think about, and this is really fucked with my head. I consider myself a very good creative. I came up with Thank You Economy, right? I think I'm smart. Every time I wrote an email for Wine Library through the decade, it always sold more because I came up with a good title and I gave a better story or more information. I think a lot of people here would pride themselves as good marketers or good creatives. I've got some news for you that I think is very fascinating. How many people here are UX or UI designers? Raise your hand. All right, get ready for your big shout out. It is my firm belief that because of UI and UX, and because of A/B testing, and because I spend a lot of time with the guys from Living Social, which is Groupon's biggest competitor in the US, that I've spent a lot of time with the kid that created Farmville, that I pay attention to what Zynga's doing, and all these other people, that the acquisition funnel, the way we get customers, has been mapped. That everybody here who's creative in marketing will not be able to beat this guy with enough A/B testing. That if you look at your website, as great of a marketer as I am, and as many good stories as I think, and as smart as I think I know what people want to buy and what kind of wine, that because of data, we can design that page 800 ways all over, understand which colors and words have the best ROI, and when you click, they look at the data and they show you and you move on. It has been mapped. It is my belief over the next 5 years that that science will be perfected at some level. It is why retargeting banner ads and Google conversions are mattering so much. It's why the biggest growth is happening with the companies that are really pushing forward in that space. And that the entire battle for all of us in e-commerce is not going to be customer acquisition as it has been for a very long time. And what that means is we're all going to be in one business. We're all in the eyeballs and ears business, but that's going to be mapped, converted, and we're going to figure it out. So what we're all going to really be in is in the lifetime value business, in the retention business. How do you keep them? Because that is what I'm seeing from the people that know how to map this stuff, what they're struggling with, what they're not capable of. They're regurgitating emails and user accounts over and over, and if they're good, they keep more than they lose, and that's why they grow. It is my belief that customer service is not going to be a part of the industry, but it is the culture that will trickle down throughout the company, and those companies that have, and this is a very important word, the word that I live by the way, the big word, intent. What's the intent of your business? Is it just to scrap out as much cash from the consumer? Or is it to become something more than just the merchant? I always tell my friends that have e-commerce companies or businesses, I'm like, be bigger than a merchant. That's why I did Wine Library TV. I created content, education, and engagement with my users. I wanted to bring more than just selling them some random Burgundy or Malbec at a good price. And that context that I created with them created the equity. Let me ask you guys a question. How many of you are aware, and this may not cross over to e-commerce as much, but it might, just curious, how many of you are aware of what Old Spice did, where they took the guy from the commercials and he went on YouTube, made 100 videos, and made a lot of noise on the internet. It was a huge internet kind of thing. It was like the social media campaign of the decade. Just by show of hands, how many of you were aware of that? Raise your hand. All right, quite a bit. So more than have PVRs. Shit. Sorry. Fine. I'm going to paint the picture for the rest of you because this is where it really matters. Because besides the word context and besides mapping acquisition of customers, one of the biggest things that I want you guys all to leave with tonight is that there is no such thing as a social media campaign. Do not get caught saying in your organization, what's going to be a social media campaign for us? Or what's the campaign? Or if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I've got a social media campaign for them, remember the thing earlier, the punch in the mouth? Do that. I'm going to tell you why. Here's what Old Spice did and got really famous in the US for an ad age. Back to the Super Bowl comment over there, they can't stop writing about it. And if you go to any social media conferences, it will be a case study for somebody during one of their talks. They did a great job.